Hello, welcome back to Geology in the Face. I'm GeologyJos, and on this geology adventure, we got more than sand just in our faces. We got it everywhere. In every crevice of our body. We even had rain and snow.
Is that hail?
One of us may have gotten stuck on soft sand with their two-wheel drive SUV for the second time. Did he make it out alive, or is he still stranded in Page, Arizona at the bottom of a sand berm? Follow me on this geology adventure to find out, and like and subscribe for the next harrowing adventure. We started our trip between Page, Arizona and Kanab, Utah. Our destination, Buckskin Gulch, the longest and deepest slot canyon in the world, coming in at a whopping 23 miles long and 200 feet deep in some places. The area we are currently hiking between Kanab, Utah and Page, Arizona is called the Coyote Buttes. The foundation of the Coyote Buttes is the Jurassic Navajo Sandstone Formation, which comes in all different colors and hues. 200 million years ago, in the Jurassic time period, this region was a sandy desert where huge sand dunes migrated across the landscape, pushed by seasonal winds. Prevailing wind directions of this time can actually be seen in the rock through what geologists call cross-bedding. Cross-bedding is a depositional feature and comes in many forms, which you can see here. The first thing that caught my eye were these festoon crossbeds, which indicate mounded dunes that cross-cut each other intermittently. Normally you see these when there's a back and forth motion like waves. Just below that we have trough crossbedding and planar crossbedding. Both of these crossbeds show a singular dune migrating from left to right. The only difference between the planar and the trough crossbedding is that trough crossbedding has a curved crest. For trough crossbedding, a cool trick to determine the wind direction is the striations. The striations come to a point, and that points in the direction that the wind was blowing. What we see today are some of the original sand dunes of the Jurassic time period that have been exposed by erosion. You might be asking, how did the sand dunes turn into rock? Well, that's a great question, and I'm going to tell you. Over millions of years, younger deposits of sediment covered the sand dunes. This sediment was deposited by lakes, braided streams, and mudflat environments, and now show up as shale, siltstone, mudstone, limestone, and conglomerates in the rock record. Eventually that sand was compacted and cemented by minerals, forming the sandstone in a process we call lithification. You may notice the interchanging ribbons of colors in the sandstone. These are called, I don't know how to pronounce this, but Lesgang bands, I think, which are formed by the movement and precipitation of oxidizing minerals, such as iron and manganese, by groundwater, which infiltrates into pores in the sandstone. You may also see thin veins or fins of calcite cut across the sandstone. If you're lucky, within the sandstone, you might see traces left behind by burrowing insects and small dinosaurs from when the sandstone was still sand dunes. These traces are called ichnofossils, which are important in determining environmental conditions of ancient times. Around 15 million years ago, with the uplift of the Colorado Plateau, erosion of younger rock layers exposed the original dunes that we are walking in today. The Paria River, its tributaries, and fast-moving floodwater have helped carve this slot canyon and many others in the area. Unfortunately, we did not make it to the trailhead. After about 20 minutes driving on a super rough road and my Tacoma absolutely hating it. We had to turn around because a ranger stopped us and said that dangerous rains were coming in, and that was enough for me to turn around because rain, slot canyons, they don't mix. Slot canyons are super dangerous even when there's just a little bit of rain, especially the longest and deepest slot canyon in the world. If there is just a little bit of rain off in the distance, that water will flow along the path of least resistance and collect at a low point, like a canyon. That water will rush into the slot canyon, and since slot canyons are so narrow, there is less space for that kinetic energy to disperse and will often speed up, causing super fast and lethal flash flooding. Just recently, in May of 2023, 2 hikers from Ohio were killed by flash flooding in Buckskin Gulch. But there are other dangers to be mindful of as well. Last October, I was in Buckskin Gulch with a group of friends, and we did actually make it in the canyon this time. But we did not get very far before we reached an impasse. This impasse. We were at the top of it, looking down, and it doesn't look totally sketchy from the bottom, but getting down was another story. 3 out of 4 of us clambered down with injuries. 1 of those 3 was sent to the hospital and lost an eyebrow. This trip, we decided not to tempt fate again and turned around. 1 hospital trip was enough. So, since we couldn't get to Buckskin Gulch, we decided to drive back to Page, Arizona to hike Horseshoe Bend, despite the 30-mile-per-hour wind gusts. But what I wasn't expecting was the sand. The sand just battering us like little shards of glass. Like it felt like little shards of glass. And it wasn't that bad at first, but it did get worse. Horseshoe Bend is a geological wonder located in Page, Arizona. Its trademark shape is all thanks to erosion caused by the Colorado River. Thanks, Colorado River! The Colorado River is a meandering river that forms snake-like curves like the one we see here. Meandering rivers are associated with flat terrain, which reduces the water flow, allowing the river to curve and bend. On the outside of the bend, where the river velocity is higher, there is more erosion happening, leading to deepening of the canyon. On the inside of the bend, where flow is slower, there is more deposition occurring. As mentioned before, water follows the path of least resistance, and sometimes if a meander travels far enough, the river cuts it off to find a different, shorter path, creating what is known as an oxbow lake. If I had to guess, this will probably happen to Horseshoe Bend, but not for a long, long time. Eventually, this part of the canyon will erode enough that the water will stop traveling all the way around the bend and be diverted to and carve a new path. The sandstone we see here at Horseshoe Bend is still the Navajo Jurassic sandstone, so you can still find all kinds of cross-bedding and even what I like to call rock pimples, which are formerly known as concretions. Concretions are formed by the precipitation of dissolved minerals like calcium carbonate from groundwater. These concretions consist of a sandstone core surrounded by a thick and hard iron-rich crust, which is normally hematite, or this other mineral that I also cannot pronounce called, it looks like gooeythite, but it's not gooeythite, it's probably like goethite. But I didn't learn that in mineralogy, so we're gonna call it gooeythite because that's fun. Anyway, concretions vary in size, from the size of a pea to a baseball, and sometimes larger. I have a huge conglomerate, like this big, from Ohio. And sometimes concretions have like huge, beautiful crystals in it, kind of like a geode. And I've been trying to get this thing open for years and have never been able to open it. So maybe there's amazing crystals in it, or maybe it's just like boring sandstone. Not that sandstone's boring, obviously, like slot canyons and cross bedding and all kinds of things. Yay, but crystals are like, you know, cute. Concretions form within the sandstone and other types of rocks, and it isn't until the surrounding sandstone erodes that these concretions are revealed. Their iron-rich crusts make them highly resistant to erosion, more so than the surrounding sandstone matrix. It wasn't until we started hiking back that the real wind started picking up, and people were losing hats and sunglasses and all kinds of things. And again, it felt like little shards of glass, and I had so much sand all over my face. It was like an exfoliant, but the worst kind of exfoliant that you can imagine, other than like probably actual glass, but this was close. We weren't looking forward to going back to the campsite because it would be the same painful scenario, because we were staying right on a beach and beaches have sand, so not a great combination, but we tempted fate anyway. The campsite we stayed at is called Lone Palm Beach, just a 15-minute drive west of Page, Arizona. I've stayed here before, and it's probably one of my favorite camping spots. It's $14 for the night if you don't have a national park pass, and it's $7 if you do have a pass. But if the little kiosk is broken, it's free. And somehow, both times that I went, the kiosk was broken, so it was free both times. Yay! So it is pretty much dispersed camping. You do have vault toilets, but those vault toilets never really smell too great, and there's no light in them. So if you need to use the bathroom in the dark, you need a headlight, and if you don't have a headlight, you're gonna be peeing in the dark. I personally didn't use them because I have an irrational fear that I'm just not going to explain. But anyway, let's get back to it. So when we were here the last time, back in October, my friend who got sent to the hospital for his traumatic brain injury, not actually, he was actually completely fine. But anyway, when he was driving to the campsite from the hospital, he got stuck in the sand. And we could not get him out. And luckily, not kidding you, 15 college students came by and helped push him out of the sand. And all was good. Nobody got stuck again that trip, and we had a great time. And now we're here again. And the same friend wants to get a little dangerous. He sees the water, the beautiful water, and he's like, I want to get closer. And mind you, the sand gets softer. The sand gets much softer the closer that you get. And I'm like, you do you. You can do that, but I'm going to stay up here where I know I can get out. And he gets down, totally fine. And he's like, Joes, come down. Your truck can make it down. And I'm like, yeah, sure, it can make it down, but how's it gonna get back up? Getting down is the easy part. The getting back up, not so easy, which he found that out pretty quick. Take two. is not going well. After multiple attempts, the man accepts his fate and prepares to spend eternity on the beach, getting sandblasted and pecked at by seagulls and ravens, waiting for his inevitable demise. The wind was supposed to stop at 7, but 7 came and went, and it was still crazy, crazy windy. Despite the wind, I had no issues setting up camp. This is my V2 GFC camper that I found off of Facebook Marketplace. My favorite purchase ever. It has 2 little latches and the tent pops right up, and it's super cozy inside. While I sat in the safety of my camper, I watched the rest of the group try to put up their tents, which they were not successful in doing. They sat in their cars for about an hour until the wind stopped, but the wind didn't stop for long. During dinner, chairs and plates and other things got tossed around. Sand was all up in my hot dog. Crunchy. All through the night, the wind continued, and honestly, it was a little bit scary on the rooftop tent because I'm up there, and I can feel my truck shaking, but that thing is bolted to the bed, so it's not going anywhere. Good morning. I just woke up. It's like 7, almost 7:30, probably not even close to that. The sun hasn't totally risen yet. Last night with the wind, and it was just like blowing around like crazy, and it was like entertaining to watch them try to put up the tent, like pelting you in the face and the eyes, and you get it in your mouth, and I'm gonna have sand in my mouth for probably a few days after this trip, and in all crevices of my body probably. But yeah, it's been eventful, but it's been fun. Definitely an adventure. It rained a little in the morning just as I was putting down the pop-up. They're making it up the sand berm. Take number 2. Can he do it? Don't slow down. Don't slow down. And he slowed down. He did it! 2-wheel drive can do it. In the morning, we tried to go back to Buckskin Gulch, but again, it was raining. And it wasn't only raining this time, it was snowing and hailing. So we opted not to do that. And I'm so glad we did, because we found something amazing. Mushrooms. Mushrooms everywhere. So many beautiful mushrooms. This is called the toadstool hike. And I was prepared to see maybe a few mushrooms, but no, the trail was littered with them. If you saw my last video, you might be able to guess what these are. They are hoodoos, which is a column of weathered rock that sometimes takes the form of mushrooms. The mushroom here is completely made of sandstone, but the types of sandstone vary. The top of the mushroom is made up of more resistant iron-enriched sandstone than the bottom, so the bottom erodes much faster than the top, causing the unique shape. You might notice the abrupt change in color from white to red. This is called a contact. It signifies a change in rock type or composition. The red sandstone is red because of iron in the rock. When the iron is exposed to air, it oxidizes, resulting in the distinctive rusty red color. When sand was deposited during wet periods, water prevented air from contacting the iron, so oxidation did not occur. Organic matter mixed with sediment can further prevent oxidation because organic material both uses up oxygen as it decays and changes and slows some of the chemical pathways of the oxidation reaction. So this contact may represent different environmental conditions during the time of deposition. That being the red during dry periods and the white during wet periods. It could also be a result of what is referred to as bleaching. The migration of hydrocarbon-bearing fluids through the red sandstone basically sucks the iron out of the rock and with it the red color. Without getting too technical, the iron within the sandstone is called ferric iron, which is immobile. But when the hydrocarbons come knocking, they reduce it to ferrous iron, which is mobile, and gets picked up by the fluids flowing through the sandstone. The fluids in question are most likely groundwater. Along with the mushrooms, we also saw other cool things, like this heart-shaped arch. It was most likely carved by a waterfall. So after the hike, we went to Kanab, Utah, and we ate lunch at this little restaurant called the Rocking V Cafe, which I highly, highly recommend. It was so good and so nutritious, perfect after a hike. After lunch, we decided to stop at the sand caves. Despite its name, this is not a natural cave. What you see here are the remnants of sandstone mining that happened in the 1900s. This sandstone was used to make molds to cast iron because of its high melting temperature. It was also used in glass making. So after the sand cave hike, we were pretty much done. The elements had worn on us. The wind, the sand, the rain, the snow, the hail, all of it. We were so done at that point. So we hightailed it back home. And my friends normally make fun of me for driving like a grandma, which is just driving 5 miles over the speed limit. But when I saw the strip, grandma mode turned off completely. I was so ready to get out of the car at that point. Other than the elements in the face, which honestly made the trip more fun, it was an awesome time, and I highly recommend all of the places that I showed you. And if you do get to go, I hope that you can take what you learned here today and bring some geology to other faces out there. Like and leave a comment if you've been to any of these places or if you plan to visit any of these places. And subscribe for the next geology adventure. And I'll catch you next time for some geology in the face.